This pivot table has errors and zeros showing, and I'm going to show you how you can hide both of those. This worksheet also has an error and zero outside of the pivot table, so we'll see what happens when we hide them inside. We'll look at the data first. So on this sheet, we can see the data that the pivot table is using, and there's an error in one of these rows. So it couldn't find a cost in the table, and when we try to multiply that by a number of units, we get an error in the total. In most cases, you'd probably want to fix this error rather than just hide it somewhere else. But if that's not an option for you, if you have to leave this here and you just don't want it in the pivot table, we can fix that. Going back to the pivot table, we have these two errors that are a result of that error in the data. And to hide the errors, I'm going to use the pivot table options. Right-click any cell, click Pivot Table Options, and in this window, on the Layout and Format tab, put a check mark beside For Error Values Show. And whatever you type in here is what's going to appear in those cells instead of the error that's there right now. You could put a space, or you could put NA without that pound sign in front of it. You could put a question mark, whatever's going to make sense for you. So I'll just type NA. That looks a little better than it does with that pound sign and the number sign in front of it. And then I'll click OK. Oh, all the errors in the pivot table changed to that setting. You'll notice though that nothing happened to the error on the worksheet. To handle those errors, we would have to do something in the formula. You could use an if error function around that formula, and that would hide the error. For zeros, if you don't want them to appear in the pivot table, you can hide them on the worksheet. And to do that, go to the File tab and click Options. In the Options window, click Advanced, and you're going to scroll way down to the Worksheet section. Display options for this worksheet, and remove the check mark here for Show a Zero in cells that have zero value, and then click OK, and that hides the zeros within the pivot table and outside. For more Excel tips and tutorials, please visit my Contextures website at www.contextures.com.